Welcome and thank you to Mike for joining the MDs in Manufacturing podcast, a podcast that allows Yorkshire business leaders to share useful insights on their role and business. I'm Kerry Hope, Managing Director, owner of Castle Employment Group, and it's an honour to welcome Mike Pennington, who is the Business Relationship Manager at the York and North Yorkshire Growth Hub, specifically focusing on connecting regional manufacturing and engineering businesses to the national Made Smarter programme. Welcome, Mike. How are you today?
Good, Kerry. Thanks very much for the invite. Looking forward to it. Thank you.
Brilliant. Mike, to kick us off then, do you want to walk us through how you came to be in your role and how your career to date led you to move into the Growth Hub?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a manufacturer, so let's get that perfectly clear, is that I worked most of my life, all of my life, in the media. Last couple of years, I was a business mentor for being the business when COVID happened. So I started at the bottom at the Yorkshire Post being a salesman, a telephone salesman, ringing those people up at tea time, the butcher, baker, candlestick maker, trying to sell some space in newspapers. And to cut a long story short, 35 years later is that I landed up as the Regional Revenue Director for Reach PLC at Canary Wharf, which is formerly known as Trinity Mirror. I was the Regional Managing Director for the North of England. I was MD at publications such as the Hull Daily Mail, Real Radio Guardian Media Group, Scunthorpe, Grimsby. And I had a roving role over, as I say, the North East for print, digital and events development. They were the three key revenue areas, along with content in editorial. So, yeah, it was a blast really for 35 years. I left in 2019 and I took a few years out. As everybody knows, COVID happened then in 2020. And I decided that I'd worked all my life and I became a business mentor in the C-suite, enjoyed helping people. And thought I'd got nothing really to prove. I just wanted to give a little bit back. 2022, I remember seeing an advert, Kerry. I remember seeing the advert on LinkedIn that I was self-taught, because obviously in the media we had lots of people that did all that publicity for us. So I saw it on LinkedIn and decided that I'd apply to York and North Yorkshire Growth Hub to look after SMEs in the area that I'm born and bred in Yorkshire, so I know the area reasonably well. And 3 years later, I'm still here. I was due to leave at the end of March 2025 this year, but we must have done pretty well with the Made Smarter programme, looking after businesses and supporting them. So I've agreed to stay on until March 2026 and we'll take it from there. So really? I came back to support businesses. That's predominantly why I came back, for no other reason.
Fantastic. And over that time where you've been with them for the last 2 or 3 years, what have you learned about leadership and change that now shapes your work with the manufacturers? So where you've been in your career over the period of time you've been leading and managing, what have you learned about leadership and change that now helps you with the work that you're doing with those manufacturers?
Yeah, I mean, I've learned from leadership and change, it starts at the top. You know, I'm a big believer in collaboration. I'm a big believer in getting everybody to buy into sort of your plans and what the dreams are and the aspiration, and ultimately the end goal. You know, the transformation that we had from a traditional newspaper industry to a worldwide, or certainly a UK-wide online business, when you're up against the likes of Google and Facebook and people like that, it is no mean feat. So for me, you have to get everybody on board. You have to get everybody collaborating and everybody pulling in the same direction. And I think nowadays, because business and everything's tough at the moment, sometimes the adoption doesn't start at the top. And I think that sometimes is where some of the issues can be. But what did I learn? I learned to persevere. I learned to never give up. I learned to work 7 days a week. And I learned that at the end of the day, if you got everybody collaborating and bringing people on that same journey, you'd get the results. Even though at times, like any transformation and change management, it's difficult. It's difficult.
It really is.
But we got there.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. What issues would you say are keeping MDs that you're working with at the moment on their toes? You know, where do you see the biggest risks and opportunities emerging for manufacturers across Yorkshire?
Well, I think that, look, what keeps them awake at the moment, probably what keeps everybody awake, is rising costs, inflation, raw materials, skills, workforce, competition, everything really that keeps any MD awake. You want to keep ahead of the competition, you want to run a good business, you want to run a company that people want to come and work for. But I think at the moment, with certain areas like the supply chains, the global uncertainty, the tariffs that at one price one day and another price another week. I give you a live example that dealt with quite a lot of businesses out where you are, Kerry, on the coast, dealt with a Scarborough business, and they were exporting some £5 million worth of goods to the US when Donald announced the new tariffs. Unfortunately, they just got ahead of when the new tariffs came in, and sort of the uncertainty. And what keeps the MDs awake is if they got that wrong and it was on the ship heading to America, then that they could have been in for another £1 million of cost that they would have had to have fund. So I think that there's an element of different areas that keep the MDs awake.
Yeah, of which a lot of it can't be forecasted like it usually is.
You're right. It can't be forecasted, can it? At the end of the day, one thing I've learned over the years working in the media, I keep on top of the news day in, day out, hour in, hour out. And, read that things change by the day, by the hour. And you're right, it's very difficult to forecast it. And when you're doing your business plans, like any MD will, whether you're in whatever sector you work in, when you're doing those particular plans, it's nice to forecast what you can see coming down the road. But I guess with all the uncertainty, everything that's happening in the UK and around the world, it's difficult to forecast that.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you see an opportunity area emerging anywhere for manufacturers, specifically across Yorkshire? Are you seeing that there's opportunities out there at the moment? Are any MDs speaking to you about where those opportunities might be that they're looking at?
Well, I think there's always opportunities. I've been speaking to a few MDs that while things are difficult at the moment, a few of them are diversifying in revenues, they're diversifying in their HR, they're diversifying in procurement. They're looking at all aspects of their business to try and obviously maximise on the revenues, to try and reduce the cost base. But more importantly, which is really where the Made Smarter programme comes in, they're trying to be smarter in the business. They're not just trying to cut costs. They're not just trying to get robots in or AI in that can actually replace the workforce. That's not what they're trying to do. They're trying to be smarter. They're trying to look for new opportunities, new collaborations, new partnerships. And I can certainly think of quite a few companies or certainly one company anyway, that's just down the road from me here that has built their business and has doubled it over the last 3 years, has doubled the number of staff that they employ, trebled the number of managers that they've got. They've invested an inordinate amount of money into their staff. They've put a lot of money into succession planning, and it's paying off for them.
Right.
So, of course, there's opportunities. The adage is that while it's difficult, there's always opportunities out there. There's AI and everything else that's coming that York wants to be part of, which I'm sure is another part of the conversation down the road.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can see that with the work that you do, like you mentioned with Made Smarter, for these people to be searching out new opportunities, collaborating and working smarter, helping them adopt new technology. Specifically, what are you seeing MDs actually doing to drive digital change? Thinking that's your background, and what are you seeing those MDs actually doing to drive that digital change at the moment?
Well, I think certainly in our areas, they're looking at automation, they're looking at robotics, they're looking at cyber security, and a lot of them are looking at a lot of the things where we support the MDs and their business is systems and data. I remember sort of going to Canada 15 years ago in the media, and all they talked about was a customer journey and data. And, it is absolutely true. Data is a fundamental part of succession and looking and analysing data. I think that from that particular point of view, there are certain key areas of what they're looking at with the digital transformation. A lot of it is in systems, a lot of it is in data, because they've got old legacy systems. They want to be smarter. They want the systems to talk to each other. They want to automate rather than the manual processing, which obviously makes the boat go quick. And then everybody's got this view that if you automate or get a robot in, and I've done it quite a lot over the last couple of years with businesses, the older people in the workforce think that that's the end. That's where my job has gone, and well, I don't want all this change and everything else. And of course, what happens ultimately, it makes the boat go quicker. It scales the business. You get new clients. These people are allowed to move on elsewhere within the business. And like any automation, and like any robot, any AI, it's only as good as what you feed it, and it needs human intervention as well to obviously support the technology. So there's plenty of areas that the MDs are looking at, and certainly I would say data systems, automation and robotics are certainly prevalent at the moment.
Fabulous. Is there an area where they tend to get stuck? So would it be that it's these MDs that they've got the ideas, but the intentions there? Is it their mindset? Is it the skills or the systems or funding? What would you say are the biggest barriers that are stopping that idea and that intention?
Kerry, I think Kerry, I think it's a bit of everything. At the end of the day, is that I think that it's very easy. I was reading a post of yours last week that you took everybody out of the business to rewrite the new business plan for your business. And it's very difficult to work on the business rather than in the business. And I think it is that balance, isn't it, between we know where we need to be. We know where we've got to be in 3, 5 and 10 years' time. And at the end of the day, we've also got to keep a close eye on the day-to-day business. Because if you don't keep a close eye on the day-to-day business, then your investments and where you want to drive the business will not happen. I'll give you the example. In the old days, in print to digital, even though digital is the way forward for everybody, whatever sector you're in, newspapers, that unfortunately is on the decline for obvious reasons, still represents 80% of the overall revenues. So my answer to it is you have to look after what you've got in the current climate if you want to drive growth and innovation in the future. Less otherwise, you won't have the funds or the cash or the knowledge or what you want to do to position your business for the future.
Absolutely. And we touched on it earlier regarding people and something that you said, it might be keeping MDs awake at night trying to attract the right people. Is there anything that you're seeing people problems wise that's standing in the way of progress around skills and retention? Is there anything that you're seeing or hearing with the network that you're in about the people problems and holding them where they've got them from a retention point of view?
Well, I can talk all day on people and skills because I'm a massive believer that people buy people, not products. Any business is built on their own people. And people say to me, have you got one message for anybody after all your years? I'd say, hire the best people and look after them. So I think from our point of view, that COVID changed the way people worked. I think that people looked at work differently. Some sectors benefited, some sectors didn't. And I think that what's holding people back is that, and this is only my own opinion, I think the work ethic has changed. I think that while the older people sort of are looking to retire, a lot of them did in COVID, in manufacturing, is the 5th biggest in the UK, Yorkshire and Humberside, and it contributes 13% of the region's outputs manufacturing. The UK has got 55,000 vacancies, of which 20% of the people will retire in the next 5 years. So if you just look at that logically, at the number of vacancies, the number of people that work in manufacturing, the amount of support that you get from Whitehall government, what we're trying to do locally, we need the people at all ages and all skills, whether that's apprenticeships, internships, the older generation, whatever it may be. We need to promote and get people into the manufacturing sector, but more importantly, look after them and retain them. And it's difficult because at the end of the day, I don't think there's as much loyalty when people come to a business as there was before. But as I say, might be controversial. It is just my own opinion. And I do believe when I set out, I just wanted to work as hard as I can, get as far up the ladder as I can. Of course, money was important, but money was a byproduct of success. If I did well, I'd get more money. Whereas nowadays, people will, and they tell you. I was speaking to somebody 3 or 4 weeks ago, and he said it's very difficult. He's got an ageing workforce, and people are leaving for similar businesses for an extra few quid per hour, and it's difficult to. You'll know that, Kerry. You're in the recruitment game. I don't know if it's just my own opinion or you share that opinion.
I absolutely, totally share it, and I think it's trying to understand what your people actually want, because what we think people want now is quite different to what it always used to be, going back to that pre-COVID mindset. And in manufacturing, they're slightly limited because of flexi and hybrid, the whole hybrid conversation. Most MDs that I've been speaking to this last week, this has been a controversial conversation that probably needs to come to another podcast or another round table, because they want to be flexible, but there's an element of the job that can't offer flexibility because of what it is. And so when people are wanting complete hybrid and flexibility to work from home, yet the rest of the production facility isn't doing that, people are choosing to not necessarily specialise in that area. So I'm seeing that exactly the same thing in terms of mindset, and certainly from any sector. I don't think that's just manufacturing, but I think there's a real risk of doing nothing, and it'll be those people that are still in the mindset. I remember speaking to an MD years ago who was like, they just need to want to work here. You know, it's not for me to sell my business to them. To an engineer, that's not what the market is anymore. You need them wanting to work in your business because of your culture and everything that comes with it. What innovations come in, even if you don't want them, you need them walking out that door, absolutely screaming and telling every friend that they want to work there. And he was not a believer of that. You know, he was like, no, they should want to work here. What we do is brilliant. So it's a mindset thing, and the risk of some people not doing it is a real problem.
Absolutely agree with you. And I think at the end of the day, in the old days, it's not just like paying people a salary and we'll pay you $5,000 more than anybody else. It's creating the mindset, the whole package, what the ethos of the company, looking after the staff, what's the succession planning, what's the investment, and it goes on and on and on. And I think that is the whole package now to retain the staff. And even sometimes after that, you can't retain the staff. I also think as well, going back to COVID and the way the world changed for people in the workforce, is that I'm a big believer in seeing the whites of people's eyes and face to face. I don't particularly like Teams. I don't particularly enjoy the lens of the camera. It's fine. It serves its purpose. And of course, when you've got a meeting in London at 9 o'clock with your CEO for 2 hours from Yorkshire, like me in the old days, that's great. Then you can do the Teams, and that's where it works. My problem with it is that people want to work at home all the time and they want to work behind the lens of the camera. I agree with Stuart Rhodes from M&S that says she's suffering because people have changed the way they work and they believe in work. But anyway, let's not take over the whole of the conversation.
It could easily be a conversation on its own, couldn't it? Yeah, absolutely. So just touching on that, is there any businesses that the Growth Hub have worked with or that you've worked with that are tackling retention well, that you're seeing that they are holding on to the people? Is there anything about what they're doing you might want to share for others to learn from?
Yeah, I can think of a few. I mean, I've helped quite a lot of them over the last 2.5 years. I guess one that springs to mind was a new one a couple of years ago, Chris at Tadweld, an engineering business at Tadcaster, just around the road from where I live. And he got in touch a few years ago and he has employed double the number of staff. His turnover has doubled. He's invested an inordinate amount of money in his staff, succession change. And it's bearing fruition, it's bearing fruit, coming to fruition. And I think that the skill there is leading by example. He took the business over as the MD. He wanted more people, and he realised that he had to change the ways of the working environment at Tadwell, and that's what he's done. He's not retracted. He's not retracting numbers. He's doubled the number of staff. And there's quite a few of those people. And I look at the MDs that run it. They're early adopters of digital. They're early adopters of the Made Smarter programme. They look at outside support, which can help their business, and it works. And he's just one example of many that have gone from strength to strength, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Is there one bold move you think more MDs should be making in 2025?
It may be me coming from the different side of the boardroom table. For me, Kerry, urgency. At the end of the day, is that I think if you stand still, you go backwards, and every other cliche you want to know. Move on. You've got to move quickly. It's moving at pace. And at the end of the day, look, as an example, look where you were with AI 12 months ago. Nobody really heard of it. And now, every single business plan, every single topic of conversation, every single Teams call, you can't get away with what's your view on AI. At the end of the day, I think that people need to crack on and adopt it at the highest level, filter it throughout the company, make sure everybody buys into the vision. And as I said to you right at the outset, hire the best people and look after them.
Absolutely. I was going to move on to that actually. Seeing many MDs start to use AI in like meaningful ways, or would you say that that's still an area where confidence needs to grow? They've got the ideas, but they can't necessarily pan it through, or they don't have the time to, or the people to that's got a spare hour in the day to try and implement it. What are you finding, you're seeing?
I think we're finding exactly that. People are talking about AI, they want to use AI. We went to the launch of the Leeds Made Smarter programme, the Leeds Manufacturing, a couple of weeks ago, and there was a panel talking about AI. Half of them knew what AI was all about, and half of them didn't. I'm no expert on AI. I understand a little bit about it. But the people that are using AI for procurement, for sales, for conversion of sales, for logistics, for stock levels, it's certainly a game changer. And whether you like AI or not, to ignore it at your peril. However, there's a long way to go, I think, Kerry, for all of us to understand what AI and what the benefits is. And I think it's like anything, isn't it? Friend or foe. You know, I did quite a lot with another company 6 months ago, and some people don't see it as a friend. Some people see it as a threat. Well, I don't think it is. However, it's got to be used correctly. Yeah. And I think there's enormous scope for it. And one thing for sure, it's here to stay.
It absolutely is, yeah. Sure. And not at the pace that it's moving at the moment. It's only going to go quicker, isn't it? So just in your role with the Growth Hub and Made Smarter, you've a really clear view of the support available to manufacturing MDs. And you said those that are really taking their business to another level are those that are really utilising the Made Smarter programme. Could you give a quick overview of what Made Smarter and the Growth Hub can actually offer to the MDs that might be listening today?
Yeah, the Made Smarter programme started in 2018 in the Northwest and the Midlands and has grown UK-wide. It's very successful. It's very much part of the industrial strategy paper for the government, and it's there to help SMEs. It's there to help the boat go quicker. It's there to help improve productivity. It's there to help the workforce in apprenticeships and internships. It's there to help in key areas such as automation, robotics, cybersecurity, data, Internet of Things, 3D printing. And I think that the people have taken it up. The advice is free. I like talking to people, so all people have to do is register and we have a chat. There's funds available. There's fully funded courses available with Sheffield Hallam University, which looks at digital modules for the next generation and for the people coming through the ranks. And it's a programme that will be here for some time. We look at the digital diagnostic, we look at the business in great detail, and we decide how we can help them. There's been no reason over the last 2 or 3 years in Yorkshire and Humberside that we haven't helped any business. Yeah. As far as the Growth Hub, that's an extension of Made Smarter. We do different roadshows. We've got one in Scarborough coming up with the Mayor on the 6th of August. We've got the same again in York. We have specialists in manufacturing, well, if you can call him that, in manufacturing. You've got specialists in farming, digital, marketing, small businesses, start-up businesses, skills, sustainability, net zero. So you have a number of people across the piece that specialise, as well as geographically, in certain sectors. And when you look at areas like Skills Bootcamp, the Trailblazers, which is all about getting people back into work, it's all about supporting businesses that want the skilled people, and that there's money and support available through the Growth Hub. You have the Mayoral Combined Authority. He's got his own funds. He's doing the High Street sustainability programme at the moment, doing the net zero programmes. We work with DBT with exports so we can get our products around the world. There's lots of it. And the great thing about it, Kerry, is that it's not as though that you have to pay for the service. It is there. And it's probably one of Yorkshire's worst kept secrets. That
it is.
there are people that can help.
Yeah, why are people not? Why is not everybody? Why are you not inundated? Why are you not turning businesses away because there's too many applying? What is it? What is it about? Why is it Is it getting what you do out there? Is it that people don't know, or is it that people aren't finding the time to do the on rather than the in stuff that we mentioned earlier?
I think the latter. I think people are just so engrossed in the business that they don't realise what's out there. Right. But I think that we, as I say, we try and help everybody possibly can. We do road shows. We have a great website. We relaunch the website every 2 or 3 years. We have programmes every week and every month. We support Scarborough Science and Engineering Week. We then support businesses in Northallerton, Thirsk, up the spine of the A1 corridor, down to the coast. And I think it's a classic that people come to me with Made Smarter and are not really in that digital remit for Made Smarter. But I don't just say, look, thanks very much and goodbye and all the best. I then try and find that link that sends them to one of my other colleagues in the Growth Hub that can help them, or with the inward investment team. You know, we've got lots and lots of different people in our organisation that can help. So the $1 million question, Kerry, with marketing is, I've no idea. I spent a life in marketing and advertising. I do my best on LinkedIn like you do and everything else to spread the word. But what is it? You can take the horse to water, but you can't get them to drink it.
100. And for anybody that is listening, and hopefully there'll be lots of people listening that all definitely. Now have a much clearer idea of what you do and how to reach out. And if it's not in the instance what it aligns with what your objectives are, then you'll point them in the direction for somebody that can help. So thank you so much for joining me on this episode of MDs in Manufacturing, Mike. I can't thank you enough for that.
Our pleasure.
It's been really fantastic to hear your insights into how Yorkshire manufacturers are adopting new technology, overcoming barriers and making the most of the support that is out there through Made Smarter and the Growth Hub. And hopefully, as I say, those listening will then reach out and take the time to work on the business, not in the business. But for those that are listening, I hope today's conversation has given you practical ideas and inspiration for driving change in your own businesses. These are stories that show how much opportunity there is when leaders embrace innovation, develop their people and take bold steps forward. So if you found this episode useful, please give it a like, share it with your network and subscribe to MDs in Manufacturing so you never miss an up and coming conversation with the region's business leaders. Mike, thanks again for your time today, and thank you to everyone for listening. I look forward to sharing more conversations soon.
Thanks, Kerry. See you soon.